Hey, we got Worlds of Chaos in here. What's up, man?
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So, first time we're actually like talking over the internet together.
Yeah, and not just on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. I woke up. I only had to work an hour today. Now I've got the rest of the day to finish up the rest of my characters
Oh,
and talk with some
nice.
friends. So I got my recluse last night.
Oh, nice, nice.
So
So that's perfect for this discussion. but
I'm short away from my revoker as well. So I've been
uh,
trying to get all my pinnacle weapons.
I hear you. I hear you. That was me all last season. I love Revoker, by the way. If you haven't used it, which I'm assuming you probably haven't used it yet, it's a really fun weapon to use in PvP.
I haven't yet. The only sniper I've actually felt comfortable with is the Beloved, and I finally got a good roll on that before Shadowkeep came out.
Nice, nice. So real quick, I mean, typically I don't actually have like a guest on here. So why don't you just like kind of, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but why don't you kind of tell us about yourself? Tell us about your channel. Tell us about like, what you do. I know you're in Drenched in Fear.
Yeah,
So,
well, to start off, outside of streaming, I am a vocalist for a death metal band called Drenched in Fear out of Wausau. Um, we've only put out an EP so far. Not super out there yet. We've only been around for about a year. Um, Working on our and a full length shortly here. Um, it's probably going to be about another year before fruition, but there's that I've got going. Um, my main goal as a streamer is to raise money for charity. Um, Not really in it to gain extra money. I don't really want to make playing video games another job. I mean, if I make money, cool, but I'd rather just give all that money back to other people. Right now, my main focus is suicide awareness, just because that's something that's just super important to me and something that has affected me in my earlier years and current and just battling it. So I want to help other people that way. So as a streamer, that's kind of just what I've been doing, and didn't really have a niche going on for a while until the past couple months, and I finally figured out, like, hey, why don't I just stream the game that I always loved, Destiny? So that's kind of where I'm at now.
that's yeah, I mean, that's awesome, man. Like something that really hit home for me with that was the suicide prevention awareness and the mental health and all that fun all that kind of stuff. That was with my old band Remission, because we're out here in Pittsburgh. We kind of that was kind of part of our whole message. We kind of took on a couple topics, like couple hard topics with it. One of which being like addiction and the cycle of like families all kind of progressively over generations, addiction being almost hereditary in a way, and a bunch of like hard mental health and like, social issues that we took on. So, I mean, that's something that's kind of near and dear to my heart personally, being able to, give back in any kind of way to those kinds of charities and recognizing those kinds of things. I actually work in the mental health field in a way. I'm in IT, but I work for a mental health institution up here. So, it was kind of a minor little passion of mine to be a part of that, change and breaking that stigma behind mental health and all that kind of stuff. So, that's awesome, man. Seriously, thank you for giving yourself a little bit of an introduction there.
Yeah, no problem.
But
No problem.
so yeah, so I mean, that's the Worlds of Chaos. Is that your primary Twitch?
Yeah, twitch.tv/WorldsofChaos is my primary. That's where I do majority of my streaming. I also took upon Facebook streaming, even though I don't prefer it. It's kind of a thing that hasn't really taken off for me yet. I think that I just do most of my like reveal streams and like bigger streams on Facebook. But if anybody's interested, I also post like Destiny news and just gaming PC related news. on there on Facebook. If you like, facebook.com/WorldsofChaos Plays.
Cool. Awesome, man. And so yeah, that's awesome. So how has Facebook gaming been going? I haven't really ever delved into it. I'm kind of just curious.
I've noticed that it's a lot harder to keep an audience on Facebook than it is on Twitch, because it's easier for people to get distracted on Facebook. They have just so much other stuff that they could be looking at while on Facebook, as where Twitch or a Mixer or something that is just so focused for streaming, it's a little bit easier to get a following, because people aren't more prone to click off your stream and go look at some drama on Facebook.
Yeah, I understand that. I get that. I mean, Facebook is kind of like an information overload. It can be incredibly distracting when it comes to any kind of video or content. You see one thing, you watch maybe 5 seconds of it, and then you see something else, and you kind of just get distracted out of that.
Definitely.
So I get that. I get that 100%. But anyways, yeah. So switching gears, and Cremone says YouTube streaming is also like that. I can imagine. I mean, there's, YouTube is just a hub for information overload and content everywhere. So it can be a little difficult to kind of draw people into it.
Yeah, from what I've looked into is that, like, for streamers, they kind of should just like stream mainly on Twitch or Mixer, and then like if for like bigger reveals or just stuff that's more of a surmounting thing to stream per se, then Facebook and YouTube would probably be better.
Yeah, I agree to that. But so yeah, switching gears to Destiny, circling back around to that. So you said you got your Recluse last night. Mm-hmm. If you don't mind me asking, like, did you do the majority of it solo, or with a group, or how'd you get to it?
The first half of it I did solo, and then like the last 200 or 300 score I did with a team.
Okay.
And let me tell you, that was probably not the best idea.
Yeah.
It is definitely easier in the second of meta. The way the glory ranks are, and you don't lose as much if you.
Yeah. Like, I've been noticing that myself.
If you lose, 300 score, you only lose like 44, if at most like 100.
Yeah, it's a lot more forgiving this season than it's been in previous seasons to be able to hit Fabled in comp, and to be able to get through just like various quest steps. I think right now I've been working on my Randy's throwing knife, which is the ritual for this season, and I feel like it's less of the glory grind, less of the glory grind and more of the weapon grind. It's more of the like getting kills, making sure you're being efficient with it, and kind of going from there. And it's honestly been a little exhausting. Scout rifles, even though they are kind of back on the menu, so to speak, if you're not running like the right one or the one that you're most comfortable with, it can be a little tricky.
Yeah, I've noticed that the Mida has definitely come back in full swing for sure.
Oh yeah, I played 6 hours of Iron Banner last night, and almost every single game I ran into someone running Mida.
Yeah,
guaranteed.
Yeah,
it's
I've been running Mida and Recluse since last night, and I've been doing amazing. The only time that I was doing not so good last night was, I think, towards the end of the night when I was getting a little tired. I was just slacking off and not paying attention. But yeah, like my go-to right now would probably be Mida, Recluse, and until I at least get my mountaintop.
Yeah, and that's a whole other grind.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Finding the right balance of grenade launchers to use and the most effective way to use them, that was a struggle for me. It took me last season, I'd say pretty much the majority of the season to get even remotely close to mountaintop. And when I did, when I finally got it, it wasn't because I had completed the quest. It was because they nerfed the quest. And when they nerfed the quest, like they kind of like reduced the requirements. That's when I finally got it. It was just waiting my postmaster because I was that close, but I just wasn't there. And luckily at that point I had just given up on it. I was like, I don't care. I don't care this much about it anymore. So
Fair enough.
Fair. It was a bit of a grind, and that's also kind of like building into the discussion that I kind of want to have today, because yesterday, Lano, aka Say No to Rage, he put out a video talking about how badly Recluse needs nerfed, and he caught a lot of flack for it. Honestly, a lot more than I was genuinely expecting, and I can see both sides of it, like, because you have people that put in X amount of time to get this weapon, and now you have people wanting it to just go away. But then you have the people that have the weapon and see how much of a crutch it can be in both PvP and PvE, and it's kind of like, to them it makes sense why someone would want it to be nerfed. It's more or less those people that want more of a variety out of their arsenal rather than just having one weapon to rule them all, so to speak. And it's complicated.
If you want my opinion?
Yeah, of course. That's why you're here, man.
I honestly feel like the Recluse it's very powerful. It's definitely very powerful, and I feel like I definitely feel like right now it's really easy to get because of the way that they changed the glory ranks.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a lot of people are upset about that because a lot of people but I feel that the Recluse is rightfully powerful in its own,
Exactly.
It takes a number of comp wins to get. You have to get fabled, and the perk itself is not like super strong. If you're not smart with it, you're gonna get killed every time.
Yeah.
You have to at least get one kill for the perk to proc. So it's not like it's a god gun. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm good, but I'm a moderate player, and I still get killed pretty often while I'm using it.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like, and this isn't even like putting down anybody that doesn't regularly play PvP, but there are weapons that are easily obtainable in the game that you can kind of learn to counter Recluse with. Like, if you see, at this point we can pretty much assume anyone you're running up against in comp, or anyone you're running up against in even like Iron Banner, they're more than likely running Recluse, because it's just a common practice weapon now. It's been meta for going on a season and a quarter now, and it's definitely at a point where most people either have it or they're close to getting it. And with that being said, I think it's safe to say that, maybe the timer on Master of Arms needs adjusted, or maybe the damage just needs tweaked a little bit. But other than that, I think it's still in a rightful place, given everything else. I think what happened to it, because I believe Bungie did a 20% base damage buff on SMGs. I don't think they were necessarily taking Recluse into account when that occurred. And I think that
it's very possible.
So to me that just says like, okay, maybe something was slightly overlooked. But I do think it's in its rightful place. I know for a fact I spent the majority of last season just going after the gun, I don't necessarily have a problem with people using it because, you learn to adapt. It's not a good weapon at range. If you can distance yourself enough from someone that's using it,
it's got a wide spread.
Yeah, it's got a very wide spread. At least, I mean, on console it's got a wide spread. On PC it's pretty much a laser beam. But even then, if it still has a damage drop off somewhere, and if you're running something that's mid to long range and you can kind of just keep your distance and kind of scout it out a little bit, I think you're in a good spot. It doesn't necessarily need a nerf in that aspect. But on the flip side of that, I don't think people are necessarily even talking about it in PvP. I think we're talking about it more in PvE, which is where I could see maybe it could use some tuning. But the problem is, I don't think Bungie separates the sandboxes. What they do to something in PvP affects PvE and vice versa.
Yeah, they made it a point where they said they want you to be able to take weapons from PvP and PvE and use it wherever you want without having to worry about, oh, hey, is this a PvP weapon? Is this a PvE weapon? Yeah, you can spec them for that, but you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not really, I don't think I'm really the one to determine whether that was a good call, because I'm kind of split down the middle as like a PvE player and a PvP player. So with that kind of said, I can't really sit here and say like, yeah, it's good, yeah, it's bad, but I do think if it's a primary weapon, and primary being like ammo type, if it's a primary weapon and it's taking up a spot in my energy slot, I just feel like in a game like Destiny, I should be able to have more than one option for my like rank and file DPS. And right now, personally, and this is just my personal opinion, I feel like moving off of Recluse and going to something else is just like not even an option. Especially in Garden. When we were doing our Garden run, it was pretty much just roasting through everything. Especially if you throw anti-barrier on it, because you can, which also added to its like what factor. You know,
oh, man.
It honestly turned, to me at least, it turned the raid onto easy mode. Because I was able, like Vex Hobgoblins, I was just shooting right through them. Whenever they would go to crouch, doesn't matter, they're still gonna die. Angelics, I'm able to shoot straight through the Hydra shields, everything. So I feel like I wouldn't say it was overlooked, but I also feel like it could use some kind of tuning to make it not less useful, but you still have to kind of think about your encounters with it. You still kind of have to think about your like how you're going to engage a battle with it. And that's honestly, that's just my take. But I would say, you know, regardless of what happens with it, there's always going to be a meta. You know?
Oh, always.
You take Recluse away, and something new is going to take its place.
Definitely.
You can't really like change that about games like Destiny, for instance. Have you what is it? You played World of Warcraft, right? I feel like you have.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, you know, I don't know how long ago like you played, like when was the first expansion, I guess you could say, you've played with WoW, just in general? Was it vanilla?
The first?
This is vanilla?
Oh yeah, I started playing when I was 10.
Okay. So you might get what I'm saying here. So whenever they started doing PvP with it, and you're looking at, I believe way back, it was, because I'm like, I think I was probably like, maybe like, I think I was really young when I first played WoW, because I'm only 23, so my thing is, I think it was like the Warlocks, weren't they just like ridiculously OP in PvP, or was that the Rogues? Some class was incredibly overpowered.
It changed a lot. Rogues were kind of like the majority of the forefront for a while through Burning Crusade. Wrath of the Lich King, when that came out, Death Knights were the PvP meta, because with that death grip, you could just like spam that and just snap people to you.
Yeah.
You know, do a one-hit combo and they're freaking dead. Especially if you're running a Blood Knight tank, and then like every hit that you kill them with, you're getting like 10 to 15% proc health back. It was like, oh my god. Yeah,
I remember that. Okay, so that's all coming back to me now. But it's kind of my point that, you know, you have a meta that rises, and then the developers kind of just, you know, they bump it down a notch, and something else is going to come up and take its place. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. You're always going to have something that is completely OP, and I don't think you are ever going to be able to truly balance something, especially in a game where you have so many different mechanics at play. And it's, if anything, I feel like PvP is in a good place. And like Cremone in my chat was saying, the Moon SMG, the Every Waking Moment, if you can get one of those with Swashbuckler, it's essentially the same deal, you know? And it's kind of just, it still rips just as easily in PvE as Recluse does. The only downfall is you don't have the Feeding Frenzy, unless you get a roll with Feeding Frenzy. You don't have Feeding Frenzy to really back up the reload speed. And I think that's the big appeal of Recluse is, you know, Feeding Frenzy. You get that reload buff as soon as you get that first kill. And I can see why that makes that a little bit kind of like tilted towards the OP side. But since it's become easier, I don't see why anyone would be really calling for a nerf for it, other than just wanting to have other weapons be just as useful. And I think that's kind of where the argument really lies. And I feel like, you know, there's a good bit of people that don't entirely understand that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's not about making the gun bad, it's about making other weapons just as useful, even if it's not hitting that exact tier.
Yeah, well, I mean, in that respect, what do you feel? I've been trying to think for a little bit, like, what part of the Crucible needs to maybe be bumped up to match the Recluse then? Like, are we thinking like auto rifles maybe need to get some sort of buff somehow? Or
I think our minds are connected, because that's exactly what I was going to say. I think auto rifles need to have, I'm not saying an increased time to kill to the point where they're just ridiculous, but I feel like the impact on auto rifles needs increased just a little bit, so you have that kind of ability to cause, you know, like that stun effect, that flinch effect on your opponent, and be able to get more damage in than you are already getting in. I don't think the buff really needs to happen with damage, because we recently saw that, and in the PvE sandbox, you know, auto rifles are pretty solid again. But I feel like in PvP, you have to kind of play with auto rifles a little more tactically, and, you know, while I agree with it, I also don't agree with it. It's just the time to kill is very long. And by that point, if you're going up with someone that has a Recluse, you're getting roasted before you get like the final 2 shots in.
Yep, every time. And that's another thing. That's kind of like, you know, SMGs, they're good for close encounters. That's kind of the point of them. They're in a way a kind of like a substitute for a shotgun, in a sense. But, you know, on the flip side of that, you have like auto rifles and like sniper rifles, which, I mean, sniper rifles shouldn't be used close range to begin with. That's just dumb. They're snipers. But you have shotguns, you have, you know, auto rifles, you know, pulse rifles, stuff like that. Rifle class weapons. They should be effective from like medium range to like that, even that middle between close and like medium, that like just in between area. But the time to kill on them is just not there. It depends. I mean, it depends on what RPM weapon you're using, and that's another one of those things where I was talking about, like, the effects of it kind of just, you know, it just, the time to kill is just not there. Now, Claws of the Wolf is ridiculous. Anything in the energy slot seems to be a little more powerful than kinetics, and that kind of brings me to my next point, where I think kinetic rifle class weapons are in they kind of need to be looked at a little bit more, because any rifle class weapon I use that I'm actually significantly better with in Crucible, just talking PvP, are energy rifle class weapons. Like energy scouts are really good. Energy pulses are really good. But that also flips over to the PvE sandbox, where then I question, well, why would I run
say, a Claws of the Wolf in PvE, or why would I run Horror's Least in PvE when I could run Recluse and just not have to worry about dying?
Yep.
So that there's kind of like a strange little imbalance there that I feel like they're still working on trying to get down pat, and it's coming along, but we still got a good bit of time before that's like there. But really, my meta discussion was more or less just the fact that, like, no matter what happens, there's always going to be a meta, and I don't think there's anything anyone can necessarily do about it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So
I mean, personally, like, I've been back and forth about Crucible and the PvP meta. I like that the scout rifles are back in. I like that that's a thing.
Yeah.
That's honestly probably one of my favorite parts. Outside of that, my honest opinion is I liked that the way that the meta was in PvP right before Shadow. Right before Shadowkeep, I felt the most comfortable to move around without having to worry about something crazy happening around me. You know, like, even though I didn't have the Recluse, everyone else, like, had Recluse and other pinnacle weapons. I still felt like I could, like, combat it with I had my Badlander shotgun, and then what was I using for a main? I think I got my dim open here. 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead, man. Take your time.
I think I was using like Better Devils for my main, and then the tractor cannon.
Boop cannon.
That was kind of that was kind of my thing. I usually did like a good 3.0 or if not better every match. I mean, maybe it's just that I got to learn the new meta each time, and just like everybody else. But for a while, and even still, I'm not doing as good as I used to.
I hear you.
Even with having the Recluse, I still feel like I'm not matching up to how I was playing last season.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel the same way, and that's the first week and a half of Shadowkeep. That's exactly how I felt in PvP. You know, towards the end of last season, it was, for me personally, it was just pretty much like a wreck-it-all fest, you know? Like, I was doing pretty good. But then the new changes went into effect, hopped into Shadowkeep, and I don't know if this has anything to do with Armor 2.0 and just not having, you know, really anything built out yet, or what, but it definitely felt like there was a huge shift in PvP. It didn't feel the same. It felt like, and I'm not saying like a good or bad way. It just did not feel the same. It felt like there was a lot of, you know, medium to long range encounters happening again, which I like. I have no problem with that. Especially, I'm a huge fan of scout rifles. Have been since Destiny 1. And just having like that sort of back is both nostalgic and it's cool for me again, you know, because I remember, I believe it was Vanilla D2 that scouts were in a place where they were just ridiculous. Like, Mido was just ignorant in PvP.
Yeah, Vanilla D2, when I first started it, Mido was king.
Yeah, it was just absolutely ridiculous. And I think that even kind of broke Trials for a little while too.
Mm-hmm.
Which, ironically, I never actually played Trials in D2 Vanilla. Well, Curse of Osiris.
I only got to play like 2 rounds of it.
Yeah, I never really got into that. Like I did with Trials of Osiris back in D1. But it was also a weird time where I wasn't really doing a lot of gaming either, so that kind of would explain why. But I will say, you know, Mida being back is cool. I like it. I dig it. It doesn't feel like it's as broken as it was, but it's still kind of like a force to be reckoned with in a way. I really like the new Vex Scout Rifle. My only problem with it is its fire rate just seems way too slow. you know, it's just, you kind of have to like time your taps in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, like, I would say probably the one and most underrated scout rifle currently in the meta is Black Scorpion. Because that thing, even during Forsaken, when scout rifles weren't doing too hot, that gun was still good. It was still the one scout rifle that was like somewhat solid next to Jade Rabbit. And better yet, it's a legendary. Like, right now I'm getting, on average, in games with Black Scorpion, keeping like medium to long range, I'm getting on average at least 20 kills per game with the scout. And that's like, for me, that's pretty significant. So, I mean, that's another just kind of like tip out there. If you're having trouble with your scout rifle kills for Randy's throwing knife, spam Banshee till he drops you a Black Scorpion and then give it a shot. See what happens. I recommend it. That's just my personal favorite, and this is the one that I've had most use with, because it has the Vice rapid frame, so you're able to just kind of like tap as fast as you want to without losing a lot of stability. And it's, once again, another Vice weapon in the energy slot that is just ridiculous. But, you know, it's got I think the one I have has like Dragonfly and High Impact.
Ooh.
So it's pretty dirty. It's pretty dirty.
Yeah,
I definitely am a fan of it. I would, like I said, I would recommend it if you are able to get one. Just try it out. You're going to just absolutely be like, what is this?
Yeah, I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it would really work all that well, because energy scouts really just, they don't have the impact to back it up. But with the high impact reserves, it kind of cancels that out, and it's just dirty. It's just mean. But all in all, I would say meta discussions aside, that's probably where I would lie that. You know, Recluse, if they gave it some kind of tuning, I don't think I'd be necessarily upset about it. But it all comes down to the whether or not I think it's needed, and I'm not sure if it's really needed or not.
I feel right now at the moment maybe not. Depending, I feel like it just depends on how the community as a whole feels.
Exactly, and that's when Bungie will make the call.
Yeah, I mean, if the community as a whole really feels that it needs to be nerfed, then it will be. That's just how it is.
Yeah, and I think it's a matter of time. It's just a matter of time at this point. It's coming. I know it is. Especially when you have so many people with Iron Banner clamoring about One-Eyed Mask and other exotics like One-Eyed Mask that are kind of reigning supreme right now. Well, there really isn't another exotic like One-Eyed Mask, which is kind of the topic of debate. It's like, you know, Titans have this exotic that, you know, lets them basically have wall hacks and regain health on kill of said wall hacked enemy. And it's not, I mean, really, it's not even the health gain that's the huge problem with it. It's the wall hack that just lasts way too long. And that's my personal opinion. I have it. I've used it. I'm not good with it, though. And that also kind of goes into the discussion of, you know, like, is something actually broken, or is the person using it just not good with it, if that makes sense? And that's kind of another little aspect of the debate that I think is important to kind of bring up when talking about certain things. So, I mean, it's just kind of like, you know, you can have a weapon that's extremely broken, but it should have a high skill curve to be broken, if that makes sense. Like Whisper, for example. Like, if you were to use Whisper in PvP, you know, that's a heavy sniper. You got to get the heavy ammo for it. You got to, you know, land your shots, and it's going to be dirty. It's going to be pretty overpowered, but it's still, there's that high it's that high skill curve for a better payoff type of deal.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of what the issue is here when we're looking at like Recluse. Like, even Mountaintop, I'm no good with Mountaintop in PvP. I am absolutely like trash tier with it. If I'm being completely honest, I am horrible with it. But I've seen people that have, good, pretty solid skills with it, just absolutely wrecking PvP with it. Because it's a one-shot, one-kill if you land the direct hit. But it's like, and it's just, this debate's always going to be there. It's never going to change. There's always going to be something new that kind of takes over the throne, so to speak. And I feel like the community just wants a little more balance in a way. But it's kind of difficult to make that call, we don't, as the public, we just don't have access to the statistics on Bungie's side to see what's really happening with it.
Yeah.
And but that's pretty much that. That's that discussion. Those are just kind of like my open thoughts on it. And I mean, if you have any more, please, feel free to speak your mind on it. This is a judgment-free and opinion open zone.
Well, I feel like they definitely put PvP on a back burner on purpose. At least for the main focus, they definitely did tweaks, but they put the most of their main focus on PvE, I feel. And we'll probably end up seeing, since they're giving us PvE through a course of weeks, and they're not going to be giving us like massive updates in like bulk. It's just going to be like spoon fed to us. I feel like we'll see a big update for PvP coming soon. I know that they were talking about something about trials coming back. Maybe, yes, I'm not sure. It might or not be just rumor, but
here, I'm pulling up the TWAB right now because I think there were some changes in PvP they were talking about yesterday.
And just a lot of community outgrowth for the PvP aspects of Destiny will start growing again once that I mean, if it doesn't happen, then honestly they could probably see a big decline in PvP people playing, because like as it is, PvP isn't really as rewarding as it used to be, so there's not really as much of a incentive to play PvP as opposed to PvE. You can do more stuff and cooler stuff playing PvE.
Yeah, I definitely agree to that. I feel like they gave PvP the update that it needed just for the time being, and then focused a lot more on PvE. And PvE being like Vex Offensive, Nightmare Hunts, Nightfall, the Ordeal. And I have my own kind of opinions on some of that stuff. That I talked a little bit about yesterday, and it wasn't necessarily that they're bad things. They're all great things. But my personal gripe was the rewards and how it feels like some of the lower tiered stuff kind of got just shoved off for rewards. Like regular heroic strikes, for instance, just feel kind of like pointless to do in a way, if that makes sense. And I that was something that I was just talking about. I really hope that they come out. I really hope that they do something with just like the regular strike playlist going into these next couple seasons, if that makes sense. And,
oh, definitely.
And by that I mean like strike specific loot, or some kind of just incentive to do just regular strikes, because not everybody always has time to just gather 3 people to go do a Nightfall. And that's okay. That's okay. I mean, you don't have to do the Nightfalls to get some of the best gear in the game. Well, now you kind of do if you want to do Ordeal, but you're getting a good reward for that kind of stuff, though, at least. And I feel like that kind of difficulty scaling in the Nightfall is good for the PvE sandbox. It's good for loot. It's good for rewards. Being able to potentially get an exotic out of one, that's awesome. Like, that's pretty much almost like a guaranteed exotic. And being able to farm it for like Ascendant shards and stuff like that is really good. But then what happens to just regular match-made heroic strikes? They just feel like kind of a pointless playlist at that point. That's just me kind of rambling off my like internal thought.
Yeah, I mean, if there's really anything else to say on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's just a rambling thought. You know, I still play strikes for my weeklies. I still do all that fun stuff. But, you know, it's like, as a player, I would like to see some more, you know, some more out of that. You know, you have dungeons in, like, say, a game like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy 14, you know, and you're always getting some kind of, like, you're always feeling somewhat rewarded out of them, in a way.
You know what I want?
Yeah, go for it.
I want set bonuses.
Yeah.
I want them to bring in, like, specific sets. Like, for example, I'm just gonna throw it out there. Like, for a warlock, like, wouldn't it be fucking cool to find Tolan the Shattered's armor?
Yeah.
Just imagine that shit. Like, just you have to go through specific dungeons or specific strikes and raids to get specific armor pieces, and like, or just, for example, like, wouldn't it be cool that if you could look like Osiris or look like fucking Saint 14?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously we've already got the helmet of Saint 14, so that's kind of a bad example, but like, you know, just like, I think that would be a cool aspect to put in.
Yeah, like, I definitely think that. Like, I mean, we have masterworking of armor, but that's always kind of felt a little trivial in a way. And not like, you know, like, what if we go through, find that kind of armor, and that armor provides some kind of bonus? Like, say, for Osiris, we get, like, increased damage against Vex if we're wearing that armor set, or, like, increased damage against Taken or the Hive if we're running Tolan's set, or, you know, stuff like that. Just like little things like you get plus 10% for each piece you're wearing. You know, and they started to kind of dabble in that a little bit with like the Taken mods in on the Reverie Dawn armor, like the Ribbon's Blessing and stuff like that. That is kind of like, in a way, a set bonus, but I get what you're saying. I completely get what you're saying, and I agree. Like, having some kind of themed sets to kind of work with. I feel like that's something that the community has been asking for, and I do believe that Bungie is listening to us on that. I feel like Armor 2.0 was kind of just the first step into them making that next jump. You know, it's like they had a path set out for the kind of armor, a path set out for how they wanted armor to be, and now, like, Armor 2.0 is step one, and now coming, insert maybe next season, next 2 seasons, whatever it might be, we're going to see an expansion of that in a way. I do feel like that kind of stuff is coming because they want to continuously, they've already expressed that they want to continuously improve, and that's something major. And you know, I like that. I like that about it. You know, it's all that fun jazz. Now, so, you know, we talked Nightfall, PvE, armor. I would say the next thing that I'm really kind of just like, I'm not really wondering about, but like, what are your thoughts on the Vex offensive? Have you really dabbled into it much?
I have. I feel like it's a very good way to get gear and to get pinnacle gear.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I don't like about it is just how repetitive it is.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, anything's gonna be repetitive. But I feel like it's maybe we need a different boss,
like a different weekly boss or something like that.
Yeah, like, or just like different lore or something, or a different map each time or something. Just a little bit of a change. Like, it's just so it's not so same every time.
Yeah, no, I get you, and I think that's kind of like where I'm standing with it. Like, I'm personally, I'm fine with Bungie doing these like seasonal activities, right? The only thing that I would probably change about them is like the mechanics within them. I feel like there's not a whole lot of new being done with it, other than maybe the champions that are being put into it. You know, like the anti-barrier Minotaurs, or the Overload Minotaurs, whatever it is, you know. I feel like mechanic wise, it's pretty much just a stomp through. each time, which is cool, and that's fine. But for that to be the season-long activity, you know, most people, I mean, I don't want to speak for most people, but I know me personally, you get kind of bored of it after doing it like 10 to 20 times, you know? You get the gear, which is cool. Yeah, you kind of get bored of it, and if there's not really any changes being done to it or anything changing about it, like even adding like a heroic mode or something, or like a hero legend, like they did that for the nightmare hunts, you know, why not do that for like the seasonal activity, and you could get like seasonal activity mods for your armor based on that, or something like that, you know, just a little more of a little more trying to use the seasonal activities for the longevity of the season, you know, because I know it will be going away after the season, which is fine, and that's cool, but, you know, just going forward, I think I would like to see maybe more variety in that, and I think that's pretty solid. Definitely. I think that would be a pretty solid way to kind of, you know, incentivize playing those activities. You know, bounties are cool. You know, you go in, you get the seasonal rank and all that. That's fine. But I do think we need a little more out of the seasonal activity in order to make it kind of rock and go there. Like, even if it was just like, hey, here's an exotic quest that's linked to it, you know, or, you know, that's just asking bare minimum.
Yeah, just some incentive to play it more than just getting an engram.
Yeah.
Because the moment that people get that engram, they're not going to play it the rest of the week. Or the rest of the, or is it daily?
It's a weekly engram on it. And that's Yeah,
they won't play it after they get it, and then the amount of people that are playing it each day dwindles until the reset.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that those types of activities are the types of activities that are not going to stay.
No.
Like if there's no daily incentives, then it's not gonna do as well.
No, it's not. If there isn't something daily for you to do, then you're going to lose people until that reset happens. You know, like there's going to be people doing stuff, and then, you know, once you have all of your powerful rewards exhausted, unless you are doing the raid, which, you know, last time I checked, a lot of people still haven't even completed a raid in just all of Destiny's history. There are a lot of people out there that haven't finished the raid. Now, I'm not even going to get into that discussion because that's such a old, you know, everyone has an opinion on that kind of thing. And that's respectable. I understand that. And it's like, I don't ask anyone to agree with me. I just ask people to listen. You know, that's the kind of mentality I have when it comes to these discussions to begin with. But there's a lot of people that just haven't even raided, you know? And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's also like, we don't have, like, once you reach endgame and you're just waiting for new content to come out, really that's all you have left to do are like Nightfalls, raids, stuff that requires fire teams. And there's LFG, which is cool, but there's also not a lot of people that are willing to really LFG. And
a lot of people don't like doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I consider myself lucky. I have multiple groups, multiple fire teams that kind of allow me to be their like sixth, or, you know, I have a group that I run with every now and again, and I'm always open to joining other people's you know, raids. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of picky about it just because I just don't want to LFG if I don't have to. I've ran into some awesome people in LFG. I can't say that I haven't, but I feel like the amount of people that I've ran into that have been just absolutely toxic, for lack of a better word, overwhelms the amount of positive people I've actually encountered in there. And it becomes a little bit of a slippery slope at that point. So, you know, it really just depends on who you end up like linking up with, you know? And there's just that 50-50 chance all the time, and it just gets exhausting. And I think that's probably where the raids kind of stand. I feel like it was a bit of a mistake to not put pinnacle gear in like all the year 2 raids at the very least. Doing Garden's cool, but after you do it so many times, once again, if you're one of the more hardcore players that you get your character done you do 3 raids a week with your fire team and you get all 3 raids done, like, cool. Like, what's next? And getting the Armor 2.0 versions of the armor is fine. That's perfectly fine. There is still reason to go back through it, but it's not pinnacle gear. So, I mean, granted, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not even sure if that would matter. Because you're still getting the Armor 2.0 versions of the old raid gear, old raid weapons, and upgrade materials are no longer really that, like, sparse. So, I guess it just kind of depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not really sure how I feel about the armor right now. Like, Armor 2.0 is cool, but, like, the one thing that needs to go is the affinity.
I agree. I 100% agree.
Sorry, like, I almost swore, but, like, the affinity
no, you're good.
is stupid.
No, dude, I agree. I agree. And just so you know, just in general, this is 18 plus, so you can swear as long as it's not like super no word.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good on that, man.
I try to restrict it just because I know that some places demonetize that.
No, understandable. But I'm just gonna talk about something that I think is made me laugh in the TWAB yesterday and also made me very happy at the same time.
Oh, I already think I know what you're talking about.
Oh, the Striker Code of the Juggernaut, bottom path. Trample, they're tuning the amount of super energy returned per kill.
Yo.
Oh, reduce the low end of the diminishing returns from 5 to 3.25%.
Yo, I'm so happy. Like, I'm also happy that the bottom tree Dawn Blade is getting a little bit of a nerf.
Honestly, I am too, because it was getting really disgusting playing as my Warlock.
You could keep that going for a long time.
If you play it right, you can keep that going for a very long time. And I'm surprised that out of nowhere they kind of just talked about that in here, because I don't think I've seen a single person, at least on Twitter or even in the forums, complain about that.
Yeah, surprisingly.
I'm very surprised that nobody... Because here's the thing, I feel like, once Well came out and everyone loves their Icarus stash, if you're a Warlock main like me, a lot of people just don't talk about the bottom path. And I think it was like middle of last season that I kind of silently realized how broken it is in PvP if you know how to use it. So it was kind of funny that I'm just sitting there and I'm like, you know what? I'm just not going to say anything about this. Because for once, Warlocks have something that make them somewhat great in PvP.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I kind of also had an issue with. And if you might have even seen my tweet about it yesterday morning, I think it was, at least it was morning for me over here on the East Coast. But I was pretty much like, Warlocks do not have good PvP exotics. They really don't right now.
Not really.
Hunters, they I can't really say they have anything too great, but they still have stuff that's better than what we have. The only things I could think of that are probably good for PvP when it comes to... My cat just like knocked my headphones out. Come here, baby. I would say probably the Crown of Tempests would probably be one of the best, just because you can kind of keep things going with that bottom tree Storm Trance. And now we have the Storm Dancer robes, which are pretty cool, but I don't think they're exactly be all end all. Like, they still pale in comparison to like One-Eyed Mask and like Gwizzin Vest or Shards of Galanor, even with their super, like, even with the super nerfs on those, like, they're still decent PvP exotics. Controverse Hold is pretty good if you're running like a blink shotgun, but it's a lot of the exotics are just very like super niche. There's not really any good general exotic for it. I think that was just something I noticed yesterday when I was just playing Iron Banner. I'm like, you know what? I took my Titan through IB yesterday, and it was a completely different experience than playing with a Warlock. Like, completely different. I was actually doing well. And I love my Warlock,
yeah.
but, like, it just feels like... Yeah, Cremone even said in chat, he was like, Warlocks are exotically underwhelming. But I definitely think Warlocks kind of sit on a weird... They're kind of sitting in a weird place right now. But it's the name of the game, and it happens. But that's kind of where I'm at with it. That's kind of where I'm at with it. That's kind of where I'm at with a lot of things. And I think it's this was a good discussion. Do you have anything else you want to add? Talk about?
Outside of everything we talked about, I'm honestly just really excited about the lore and the story where that's going, because I've actually got a lot of speculation and a lot of theories about where the story is going to be going, and some of the concept art and some of the lore books are actually pointing towards that, and I'm really excited.
I agree.
I know it's kind of like to derail off of the original conversation.
Oh no, man, no, you're fine. You're fine. This is like I said. This is, there's the topics that I have, but any kind of just discussion, I'm always about it. And I would definitely say that we have we have a lot coming at us lore wise. We were talking about it a little bit here yesterday. We straight up said we're all over here theorizing that, like, as soon as they flip on that Vex portal in the tower, Saint 14 is going to come walking through it.
You think so?
I personally think so, and the reason I think that is because of the raid lore that we got, where it explains how Praedyth figured out that the Infinite Forest and the Black Garden are connected to each other. And that you can theoretically go into the Infinite Forest and come out through the Black Garden.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was kind of like something that we kind of put two and two together, and with the perfect paradox, like Cremone in chat just actually mentioned, perfect timing. Thanks, man, perfect timing. With perfect paradox, we're looking at the fact that Saint 14 came from, I can't remember if he came from the past or if he came from the future, one of the two. I think he came from the past. He came from the past and saw what our tower looked like and was like, wow, this is glorious. Like, because he's from the era where the tower had just kind of became a thing. It was never necessarily it wasn't at that point, like, they were still reeling from the collapse. They were essentially rebuilding society. And he, comes to the future and sees, wow, like, the future is great. Like, look at this tower. Look how huge the city is. Look at all of, like, look at the Traveler. The Traveler's awake again. Like, all this crazy stuff. And, we give him our perfect paradox, and he goes back to his time, fights in the Battle of Six Fronts, and then, the events of Curse of Osiris happen, where we find the pieces of perfect paradox, we build it, and then in the future, he comes to the tower, we give it to him, and it just keeps continuing on this loop, right? So, it would make sense for him to show up during next season, which is called the Season of Dawn, and he's a Sentinel, Ward of Dawn Titan, and he's also connected to the Vex, and you gotta think, if he got lost in the Infinite Forest and he time traveled, back then, how would he have time traveled? Otherwise, the only way he could have potentially time traveled, at least theory-wise, this is all theory, I don't know if this is true, the only way he could have potentially time traveled is through the Infinite Forest. So, if he finds a gateway in the Infinite Forest, and that gateway just so happens to lead to that Vex portal that Ikora's building, I'm putting two and two together there, and I feel like as soon as they turn that portal on, he's gonna walk right through, and everyone's just gonna be like, "WTF, man? Where you been?"
Well, because didn't we find his body in that mission once?
We did. He ended up time traveling to a future where the Vex had completely just taken over everything, and he was literally lying dead on a pile of dead Vex that he killed. And I believe, lore-wise, they were talking about the way... And that's another thing Cremone just mentioned. Osiris back then didn't have the ability to manipulate the forest like he's able to now, because we took out Panoptes. But that's just really my theory that, at some point within the next couple seasons, we are going to see Saint 14, and it's all but pretty much leaked at this point. If you go to the IMDb page for Destiny 2 Shadowkeep, they have a voice actor for Saint 14 listed.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, I mean, I'm just kind of putting two and two together, but I feel like those are the circumstances we're going to meet him under. He's probably going to be the vendor for next season.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I think I would like that. I would like to see some legendary figures kind of just show up,
Well, I mean, we all know that Oryx is going to be coming back again.
Oh yeah, that was a huge topic of discussion yesterday when we were sitting here just chatting. That was a pretty big topic. Like, we were all like, okay, so as soon as we see the old man, we're gonna clap his cheeks again.
Yeah, see, like I knew that when we had a touch of malice and when we got that gun in the first game, and it spoke about how it was stealing his essence in the gun, I knew that we were going to see him again.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that he didn't plan for that. Like, obviously he did.
There's no way Oryx did not have a backup plan. We're talking about someone that was god level. Like, we're talking about a force. Like, he wasn't just god level to the Hive. He was like a force of nature. He was the Hive.
Yeah.
Like, he commanded the Deep, which we can now assume, just based off of lore, is the darkness. The Deep is the darkness.
Yeah.
It's just how they perceived what the darkness was.
Something that I've noticed with the way that the lore speaks about the darkness and the light, I'm pretty sure that the darkness itself is not a race or a being.
Mm-hmm.
The darkness is probably a metaphysical power that dark creatures can use.
Yeah, it's kind of like a cosmic force.
So it's just like the way that the Traveler exhibits light upon other creatures and gives us light.
Yeah.
The same thing that the pyramids can give other creatures, the deep, the darkness, and so on.
Exactly. And I feel like something that's being hinted at is it's going to get dangerous, so to speak. And by that I mean, we saw just by going into the pyramid what the darkness could do to our ghost. I feel like we're going to get Dark Guardians as the enemies, and I don't think they are going to have become Dark Guardians by choice, if that makes sense. I feel like...
So you think we're going to get, like, Dark Guardian NPC characters?
I think we're talking, like, the people, like, we're going to be fighting Dark Guardians. They are going to be guardians that, when the darkness shows up, consumes Earth, does whatever it does, it's going to take a bunch of guardians as their army, so to speak.
See, like, I feel you're right, and I don't think that we're going to end up going against Dark Guardians. I think that that's going to come in Destiny 3 when we will get alignment choices.
Yeah.
And people will be able to be Dark Guardians. Because I don't think that they'll have, like, Guardian NPC characters, in my opinion.
I gotcha.
That'd be a little hard for them to manage. I feel like that would be hard for them to manage how they could just randomize just Guardians like that.
Yeah. Okay. I get what you're saying.
Maybe I'm naive, but I feel like that would be a perfect idea or a perfect entry for them to be like, all right, you know what, you fought for the light for so long. What if you're tired of it? What if you just don't wanna do it anymore? You don't wanna protect people. You don't wanna fight for the light, and it's pragmatic, bomb logic, and you wanna submit to the sword logic because you think that's the right logic of the universe.
Exactly.
And then you can do that.
And that's what I think I like about like Destiny's lore is it's very rooted in like thought logic, like it's rooted in this like higher power like mentality, if that makes sense. Like this, like it's like the ideas presented to us are not like like higher thoughts. It's like, you know, what is the meaning of the universe? Like, what purpose do we have here within the universe? Like, very like thought-provoking ideas, and a lot of it is deeply rooted in that. And that's one thing I will give the writers of the lore like huge props for. Like, they are doing all of this very thought-provoking stuff. Like, you read the Unveiling lore book that's been kind of, you know, drip fed us over the past couple weeks, and a lot of it reads very much so like the theory of creation and like stuff like that. It's very weird in a sense. It's like this theory of like cosmic creation and how the forces of the universe came together to create what we know. And it's very, very interesting. It's some really interesting like stuff, just lore wise. Which, by the way, if you haven't read any of those lore books, definitely get on that, because there's some pretty significant stuff in there that kind of points to like the creation of the light and the dark.
Oh, I have read, I think, at least the first 3.
Yeah, those are the ones that I believe are out. I know one of them's Gardener and the Winnower, and then I forget what the other ones are called, but reading the Gardener and the Winnower, I'm just reading this. I'm reading it from like a metaphorical standpoint of like, you know, the gardener plants seeds in the morning and the winnower reaps the day's benefits from those seeds. Like, we're not talking like literal gardener and winnower. We're talking like the gardener being the beginning of life and like the winnower being death. Like,
yeah,
you know, we're like light and dark.
There was a video that came out with Destiny 1. It wasn't an official video. Like a digital art studio released it in their package of like art that they didn't use, but it was Destiny related, so it went viral.
Yeah,
and it was an exchange, an entity that was connected to the Traveler, a female entity that looked kind of like a spirit, and then between the 3 original astronauts that found the Traveler.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of speculation that this being that we've seen in this video is the physical form or the physical manifestation of the Traveler.
Yeah.
And that the Traveler doesn't have an actual body, and neither does the beings that mainly use the darkness. They don't have corporeal bodies. They just manifest in ways that we can perceive them. Otherwise, we can't actually perceive them in any way that we could.
Yeah,
we could at all.
Exactly, and I think that's you know, that's definitely something that's going to come up. You know, we got a lot of we do have a lot of lore coming up. I feel like the dungeon is going to be Oryx related. I honestly do, and the only evidence I really have to back that up is point one. We have the fact that they put that lore into the collector's edition for Shadowkeep. Like, why put that in there if you're not going to do anything with it?
Oh yeah, definitely. They've been seeding this since Destiny 1.
Exactly.
And they're finally using it.
And two, and this is the biggest point that I'm probably going to make on that. What if, or like, why would this dungeon have anything to do with the Hive at this point? We know we know for a fact why they built the Shadow Keep. They used it. They built it as kind of like a dampener for the pyramid's power. That's what Hashladoon was doing. So that's why like the Hive that are so close to the pyramid ship aren't affected by the nightmares. They're shielded from it. That's the purpose of the Shadow Keep. But what just bothers me is like, okay, so like we have this dungeon, but why are we going down there? What else could possibly be going on that is that dangerous to warrant like a full dungeon over it, you know? And I think that something is that deep within the moon, they are trying to resurrect Oryx. Someone is trying to resurrect Oryx, and I know that Crota still has 2 daughters out there. And if 2 of the daughters were already at the Shadow Keep, it's probably safe to assume that the other 2 are probably there as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, and it would make sense that they would try to do it deep within the moon, you know, because one, you're not going to be able to figure it out, but, you know, Guardians, like, we're not going to know, like, hey, what are they doing? But I feel like something with the unknown artifact's going to tip off Eris, and that's what's going to send us down there. And we already have, like, I don't know if it's actually Urok or whatever it is, but you've seen it in the trailers. You got the Hive Knight that's on fire. You know, that's Urok, yeah. Which is, if I remember correctly, Flame. I'm looking it up right now because I know he's connected to Oryx in some way. He was a scion of Oryx.
Sorry, you broke up. I didn't hear you.
Sorry. Yeah. So you know we're going to potentially be fighting Urok. You know, the Flame Prince, assuming that Flaming Knight is actually, you know, Urok, right? Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. Urox. That's what it was. He was a scion of Oryx. Like that was his thing. He was literally a follower of Oryx. So what the hell is he doing on the moon if this dungeon has nothing to do? Like what's he doing in the dungeon if the dungeon has nothing to do with Oryx? Like
very fair point.
That's like the flame hive or whatever. Like even if it's not Urox, it's still a flame hive, and you could probably just by deductive reasoning and knowing like how the hive work. If that type of knight is down there, they are probably scions of Oryx. It's at this point, I can safely make an assumption that this dungeon is going to have to do with that lore piece about Oryx potentially returning. Now, are we going to see Oryx? Definitely. Are we going to see Oryx? That's up for debate. I think it's very odd that we haven't seen a Nightmare of Oryx, given the fact he was like the most pivotal enemy in Destiny's history, and the season is all about like, you know, bringing back like, you know, it's all about bringing back those old enemies. So why not bring back the father of all of them? You know, like the father of all enemies, unless there's something, unless he's one, not truly dead, or two, there's something else to go off of there.
I don't feel like he's truly dead. There's a lot of people that say that he's going to come back as a nightmare.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to come back as a nightmare. I think he's going to physically manifest.
I believe
world,
so.
Or at least they're going to try to.
I believe so. Honestly, there's been all that debate, and I honestly think he's coming back as like a full on Oryx Taken King. But I feel like he'll at least at the very least be weakened to the point where like we can kill him like for good in a way. And that's going to be at least what we attempt to do with the dungeon, and whatever happens after that is going to be, who knows.
I hope that it's a little bit longer of a process than just simply going in the dungeon and killing him.
Yeah. I'm hoping that it's like, okay, we go in and like it's a hive ritual of sorts. We kill the bosses or whatever, and the result is we might have killed the bosses, but we were too late to stop the ritual. If that makes sense. Like, yeah. You know, we'll get there just in time to kill the bosses, whatever they might be, which I'm assuming could potentially be Crota's daughters or something like that. because the hidden swarm are the ones that, you know, Crota's army are the ones that have found this potential to bring him back. So we're gonna see some crazy stuff there. And my buddy Ty was actually talking about, he thinks we're gonna see some kind of hive civil war go on in the background once he returns. You know, him and Savathun are going to go to war with each other.
Well, I mean, they've already been to war with each other a couple times, so it's probably a good safe bet.
Yeah, especially since she is now somewhere within our system. Because, I mean, you can't deny she's somewhere. We don't know where she's at, but she's somewhere in the system currently.
Here's the thing, though. Like, if Horrocks does come back, he doesn't have control over the Taken army anymore.
Exactly.
Savathun does. So when he comes back, he will definitely be trying to vie to take control over his army again, because she's not going to let.
Yeah.
And if I know anything about the Hive, it'll be her way of testing him. Be like, you want to be Taken King again? Come get it.
Pretty much. That's exactly it. She's going to reverse the sword logic and use it on him. You know? She's
also been trying to work on figuring out a way to making it so that way she doesn't have to feed her worm anymore.
Yeah.
She's the queen of cunning, and she doesn't want to be submitting to anybody else anymore.
No, exactly. Exactly. And like that's even her thing with the
with what?
Sorry, what is it? The lore, I think it was, or no, the menagerie lore. I forget what it's called.
Truth to Power.
No, that was Marasov's lore. You know what I'm talking. The Chronicon. That's what it was. The Chronicon.
Oh, Chronicon. Okay.
The Chronicon. You know, Callus is in there, and I mean, you have to take it with a grain of salt because it's very obvious that some of the stuff within the Chronicon was manufactured and just kind of like, you know, fan speak, so to speak. You know,
Callus's benefit. Yeah.
Yeah. So just kind of like making Callus look good, so to speak. It's very kind of just like the one that I was really interested in. I believe he was talking. It was essentially predicting how we were going to kill Savathun, and how, you know, she comes through a portal on the Leviathan, and we basically just chase her into her throne world and kill her there. Now
that sounds too easy.
That sounds way too easy. Now, then, in the new strike, I forget what the new strike's called, but it's the new Vex Taken strike on Io. Eris Morn talks about how Savathun is not as powerful as Oryx is, and she is not really as adept in combat as he is, and that she would do anything to make sure she would not risk a direct confrontation with us. So we now have a conflicting opinion from Eris between what Eris says about her, given her knowledge of the Hive, to what the Chronicon says. You know, at that point in the Chronicon, we are essentially gods. You know, we have killed everybody that we ever met. She would not, I do not think that she, in her current state, would risk a direct confrontation with us. Knowing that we have basically slaughtered gods over and over again. You know, she's more of a works in the shadows kind of enemy. So it's the cunning. That's her strength. She plays to that. So it's going to be very interesting to see where that kind of all goes in a way. But I'm excited. I'm excited with where the lore is going, and I think it's a good it's going in a good place. But yeah. And I think that just about wraps it up for Sin Talks. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Nope, I'm pretty good.
Cool, man. I appreciate you stopping by today.
Yeah, no problem, man. It was actually pretty good talking. I don't really do much outside of just regularly play Destiny and stream, so it was actually good talking about it.
Heck yeah, man. I'm always up for these kind of talks. You know, you can hit me up on Twitter anytime you want. Once again, guys, Worlds of Chaos, go follow his Twitch channel. Go show him some love over on Twitter. and go check out his band, Drenched in Fear.
We're playing a lot of shows this next coming month, and we are planning on getting a tour out for next year once we start playing our new music.
Nice, dude.
So we're hoping to at least hit the South, so Texas, Florida, and then the East Coast. Probably not going to get the West Coast until next year, or until like 2021.
Gotcha, man. Gotcha. Once you hit the East Coast, hit me up if you guys need to figure out any places to find shows. I'm sure you guys know people out this way, but Pittsburgh at least. Let me know if you guys are coming out to Pittsburgh. I'll stop out at a show.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I will definitely keep you in mind. I want to play Pittsburgh really badly.
Heck yeah,
we
dude.
were supposed to play out there recently. Black Venom had a show for us because we're represented by Black Venom Promotions.
Gotcha.
And like we were gonna play out there, but it just didn't end up working out or something.
Yeah, that's happened to me in the past. I know that feel. But yeah, man, if you're ever in the Pittsburgh area, hit me up. We'll meet up. Definitely, if it's a show, whatever it might be.
Sounds good.
All right, man. Thank you so much for stopping by today. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
All right, man. Well, guys, that was Worlds of Chaos, and wanted to thank him once again for stopping by today. Thank you guys for chat. Cremone, thank you for keeping things moving down in chat. She may be on a ship, but she parlays with the 9. I would definitely be about that. I would definitely like to see that. Before I've got maybe about 10 more minutes before we hit the 2-hour mark, and that being said, I'm going to take a quick little break to stretch, go to the bathroom, grab something to eat real fast, and we will go from there. We will play some